From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 191 of From the Middle, a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview style podcast hosted by three middle-class guys living in the middle of America and the middle chapters of our lives with a point of view that's somewhere in the middle. Our government is shooting balloons out of the sky. We don't talk about that at all in this week's episode, but we do talk about some crazy travel stories, as well as our thoughts on the Super Bowl. Happy Valentine's Day yesterday. Hope you had a good time with your sweetie and loved one. We also talk about some of the things that we are streaming, including Nate Bargatze's new special, The Pez Outlaw, and Hardy's new album, The Mockingbird and the Crow, amongst other things. We hope you enjoy. We have a lot of fun in this week's episode. There's a lot of laughter. And yeah, Kendall, play that intro music.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Hey, fellas, it's been a couple weeks. It's good to see your smiling faces and talk with you again.
It's good to be talking again.
Yeah. Tell the listeners what was going on.
I had a cough for like a long time, which was probably some kind of virus or something, but ended up with laryngitis for, I don't know, the better part of a couple of weeks there. Which is crazy. I don't think I've ever officially had laryngitis before. And for all I know, I didn't have it just now. I'm thinking laryngitis is just you lose your voice, but there might be more to it than that. I'm not sure. In any case, this is what it sounds like right now. It's not 100%, but it's there.
But it is there. We are back. We are sorry to have taken a week off. You know, it was funny. I truly didn't think anybody would care or notice. And we got so many comments and messages, and I got some texts like my week is ruined. It was so nice. Like it was so heartwarming to know that anybody even minded.
Heartwarming and a little alarming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So I have yesterday, well, as we're recording this, as of when this is posted, it's just Super Bowl Sunday on Sunday. I was playing some euchre with some guys and nobody was really paying attention to the game except for me. And I look back and it's a commercial and there's a guy wearing a Speedo. And as we're playing our game of euchre, like this is like at a church party. And I just say to these guys, hey, you know what they call Speedos in Australia? And I said they call them budgie smugglers. And then they were like, they didn't know what a budgie was. And so I had to say, well, a budgie is a parakeet. That's what a budgie is. The budgie smugglers. And I got like a little bit of a giggle, but more along the lines. And then like a couple of beats later, it occurred to me, I was the only one watching this. So I like stopped everything. And I'm like, guys, just so that you know, like one of the guys I don't know nearly as well as the other two. I was like, guys, I saw a commercial with a guy.
They thought you just had random trivia about men's.
They thought I was just spitting facts. Yeah.
Yeah. Why have we never played euchre together? I love euchre.
Oh, me too.
Oh, all right. Chalk that up as the next thing we need to do. Speaking of Speedos, since Kendall had the audacity to get sick, I figure I would have quietly slipped away to the beach, only because he ruined our ability to record.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with me. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding about the beach, but he was not audacious. Is that right? Is that what I said? So it was a lot of firsts for our daughter. My wife and my daughter and I, we went to Clearwater some family had rented like an Airbnb for like a month. And like on a whim, they told us there was some space. And so we bought some tickets and went down. My daughter had never flown before. She had never been to like the beach, like the ocean beach before, which was new. And so, and she like was in the hot tub for hours every day, tons of time, loved it. And so that's what we did. So since Kendall was sick, I went to Florida and had a great time. I thought, in the office when Michael comes back from Jamaica with the little beads in his hair, I really wanted the red, white, and blue, just the three. But then I didn't know what song because he has the feeling hot, hot, hot. And I thought, yeah, but then whatever. So I just bought a Ron John hat, and you can call me Ron John. That's who I am now. I'm a beach guy.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to see in an Ohio winter is all the like Salt Life stickers on the back of people's cars and Ron John Surf Shop, as well as the Salty Dog Cafe. All those like stickers for just the Midwesterns who just want to remind their friends and neighbors like, oh, no, I'm pretty cool once a year in summer and do some cool stuff. Hey, Dillon, let's get into just a little bit. Let's just take a quick So I think it's funny how I found out that this trip was happening. So Dillon calls me one day and says, hey man, so I was wondering, it sounds like mom invited us down to this vacation house she's getting in Florida, and we're going to be getting some quite large packages from Amazon. I was wondering if while we were gone, and as I'm saying this, just realized you might not have gotten an invitation.
All accurate. Yep, that's exactly how it happened.
So I didn't know that this was even transpiring. He was correct. I hadn't gotten an invitation. So then Sherry's messaging with Dillon and I's cousin Jenna, and she's like, "Hey, we're so excited. Tim and Kelly invited us to this house down in Clearwater. We're so excited. Are you guys coming?" And we're like, "No, we didn't manage to get an invitation." So I text mom and I say, hey, it sounds like everybody in the extended family is really excited about this little party that you're beginning to shape down at the beach for like the whole month of February. How does one get an invitation to such an
Yeah. Incredible thing. They started inviting people from Ohio to come down they don't even like.
Wow.
Just to fill up the house. There was so many rooms. The funny thing is, here's if no one knows the dynamic well enough in our family. Corey and I are brothers. If you're listening for the first time, I just assumed Corey had already been invited months before we were, and was either going or not going, and I just needed some packages covered at that were coming to the house. So as I'm saying it, I think the lack of response made me start feeling like, oh, because you would have already 19 out of 20 times, you would have already been in the know, invited, accepted or declined, and have already had plans. And we were just finding out she was out of the country entirely, let alone that she had space at a beach house. And that's not knocking our mother. That's just funny because she's always traveling and busy, and it's fine. So it's just a funny thing. So like, I just assumed you already knew, and you had already accepted or declined an offer.
Instead, you were slapping him in the face, man. Well, I'm dead at the party that you're not invited to. Right. I need somebody to pick up packages for me. You were the guy asking your newly single friend to babysit your kids for Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
that's what you were.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Perfect. Yeah.
So she felt so bad, our mother, that she's like, no, there's a misunderstanding. I have to FaceTime you because I have to see your face to know that you're not really upset, because I told her I was mostly being facetious. So she FaceTimes me and she's like, here's the deal. You guys had said when we were planning on doing another lake vacation this summer that you probably wouldn't be able to go because you have limited vacation time with your work and blah, blah, blah. And I go, yeah. That's when you were planning yet another lake vacation. You said nothing about renting an amazing house in Clearwater, Florida for the month of February. The lake house, by the way, has no internet, so there'd be no way we could take some of those days and quote unquote work, but we can at the really amazing house in Clearwater. So she's like, I'm so sorry. Are you really upset? And I'm like, no, I'm not really. It wouldn't have worked anyway. It was just fun to bust her chops a little bit.
And it was amazing. Like, I don't want to rub it in, but I got to rub it in a little bit because it was amazing. So one day, got a little sunburn without even trying because I was working outdoors on the third floor patio off the Eagle's Nest, which featured its own kitchenette, full bathroom right off the outside patio.
You were working on it?
I was working. I did work a couple days.
Oh, sorry. You were doing like your job work. Not like they brought you there to get some things done.
Yeah, this is so
like they invited you to Downton Abbey so that you could be a doorman.
Yeah, not that. Although I would have done it with the amenities. So it was like, hey, I'll work a couple days and then I'll take a couple days off and then take a long weekend and make a whole kind of week out of it, which is weird because that's not always been, Corey, that's something you've been able to do far longer than I've been able to do.
Yeah.
And so it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing that I have the ability to do that. Not everyone does. And I'm very grateful for it. And so
in all seriousness, you guys haven't taken a vacation since you've been married. I was so genuinely excited for you and so genuinely excited to hear the stories of your daughter, my niece, flying for the first time. And I'm so glad that you got the time away. I will say, though, when you say you got sunburned, when you were first telling me this, you said, I got sunburned working from the third floor Eagle's Nest. And I thought you meant because of your fair skin, just inside that you got sunburned through the window.
Yeah. Also possible if you don't know my fair skin. From the dome light in my car sometimes. But you take it where you can get it and you try to enjoy. The awesome thing about this, for most people, this wouldn't be awesome. For our family, this was awesome. There was an overhead extension outside covering a outdoor kitchen. There was an outdoor mounted TV, a hot tub, and probably a third of the pool. But because of the time of the year, the rest of the house covered like the other 2/3 of the pool most of the day, and the pool and the hot tub were heated. So it was like kind of a perfect situation for us who, like, it's a little too cold to go to the beach, but then you're fully exposed at the beach and you got to keep doing the sunscreen thing over and over. So like the only day that I wore sunscreen was the day we went and hung out at the beach just so we could play in the sand and stuff a little bit. So that was really nice for anybody that's fair skinned. You know how nice that is to be able to go to a place like that and enjoy a lot of pool and hot tub and like not even think about sunscreen or any of that. So it was pretty sweet.
How's Clearwater in February? Was it packed? Like, you sent one photo that I was shocked at how much beach there is.
Yeah.
Like some East Coast places you go, and I know that this is on the Gulf side, right?
Yeah, that's right. So that was from, shout out to a restaurant called Frenchie's. That was right off of Frenchie's. So there is definitely a more popular part of the beach. And then as sort of we went north of the main strip, it's a lot of residential. So those beaches were much quieter because it was public access, but really you're not going to drive all the way up there, when there's closer beaches to, like the main strip. So very, very quiet. It was lots of beach, very white sand, very, very beautiful, tons of shells. Like, I feel like the sand was made up so much of shells. I feel like they've just got to come along with big, like, kitty litter scoopers. And then everybody just throws those shells as their mulch around their houses. Like, legit. Like, I'm not even as a joke. Like, anywhere we would put mulch was just white shells. That's so awesome. It's like they scoop all the biggest stuff off the beach and throw it in houses. And then all the teeny tiny little shells are the ones that like make up the beach itself. But not hard to walk on or anything. It's very pretty. Still pretty busy. I think the weather was high 70s most of the week. So that we were lucky. We didn't get direct flights, but flights down there were great. Kiddo did awesome. Like, totally leaned into the flight thing, and she just like played on the iPad and played on the seat screens, and flights back were a story. And we got an awesome time. Tons of great seafood for anybody that's into that kind of thing.
How was the ocean water too? I've never been on the Gulf side, so I know the waves are less, but the water's typically warmer.
It was still pretty cold. I mean, it was, you're dealing with like early February in there. So family we were with got in and were swimming, but it was like you're getting used to some pretty cold water when you go in. So I'd be very curious to go back when the water was warm to see how busy the beach was. But then by that point, it's probably too hot for me and I don't want to be there. So weird sort of, I'm just as fine swimming in the pool and getting to hang out on the beach as I am like being at the beach all day.
Yeah. So, then you'd be running into Kendall's version of Florida, which is the hot, sweaty, sticky. It's so hot you can't even breathe.
Yeah.
Kind of Florida.
You take a deep breath, you end up drowning.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Tell us about the return flight. What happened?
Well, I do have a question before that. So we tried some cool places. We went to an Irish bar called O'Keefe's. It was like great, some local music. We went to an Italian place. Great. They lost our credit card and it was still great. Cristino's Coal Oven Pizza. But one of my favorite restaurant while we were down there, so if anybody goes, was a Clear Sky Cafe. But question for you. So we're sitting out actually technically on the sidewalk. We're not even on their patio. We're on the sidewalk in front of this. And our server comes out. She introduces herself. Her name is T. Very helpful. But she's not writing anything down of any of the drinks. She brings the drinks, one extra drink, got all the other drinks right. Already start to feel like her shtick is not paying off. Like, because you already brought an extra drink. Starts taking food orders. Lots of customization in the food orders. Still not writing anything down. Brings the food out, mostly accurate. Mostly enough we probably didn't say anything. She's still overly confident in her system. But still some things wrong. Feels like being the type of person who doesn't have to write anything down at best mildly amuses your diners and at worst can catastrophically backfire. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Do you ever notice that or like have an opinion either way? She's very nice. To be fair, she got most of it right. But again, it didn't feel worth it, even for the few little things that were wrong. Awesome food, super great service. Still, the few things wrong didn't feel worth it.
Whatever it was we got, it was wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I feel like Pete and Sebastian were just talking about this, and I know it's like it's a common talking point for etiquette things and stand-up things. You're right, though. The risk reward teeter-totter is so right. Like the risk of messing up and people being upset that you messed up. The pain of that is so much higher than whatever level of impressed they might be.
Right.
That you got everything right. That it doesn't make sense to do it.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. I sometimes wonder in those situations, in those places, and maybe somebody on the inside could talk to this. Are there restaurants, particularly nicer ones that I'm thinking of, that encourage or make it some kind of a requirement for their wait staff to go by memory? I know that there are places that like make you memorize spiels and specials and things of that nature. And then there are places where like you ask them what the specials are and they look back at the bulletin board and they're like, I think that's probably right. Like, so that's all over the map. So I wonder how much of that is under the wait staff's control, or if they are just trying to be cocky. Like,
I understand that level of attention to detail at places that are so expensive that I'm not going there. I don't understand it at the kind of places that I can afford to eat at. Like, it doesn't. I'm not impressed, and I'm more potentially annoyed that this is going to go south than I'm going to be impressed by you memorizing it. I
Right.
don't understand. But you're probably right. There are places that probably like require it or highly encourage, as some sort of like weird customer service standard to like.
I think Kendall's right in that there are probably places that are of a certain ilk. They're a classy enough joint that somebody flipping out a tablet of paper to write orders down would look weird. And it's like that thing of like the best restaurants have smaller menus, right?
Yeah.
If they have massive menus that are really hard to memorize, they're probably not that great anyway. So the best places know exactly what steak dish they have, what chicken dish they have, what vegetarian dish they have. So there's not much to remember anyway. So then you're really worrying just about customization and drink orders. So there's probably a certain type of place where that would feel unclassy to reach into your apron and whip out the place if you don't know the one steak dish, the one chicken dish, the one vegetarian dish.
I feel like our generation is the one that like comes along to these kinds of things and says, yeah, but why though? What's so unclassy about a notepad? I don't get it.
In fact, if T had a tiny little notepad and flipped it really quick, like a police badge, and then like a pen and then like the little mustache and like,
yeah,
that, and it was like,
like that's attention to detail. That's attentiveness.
Right. I'd be gone. Good.
Even you know how you can tell the difference of somebody writing shorthand versus somebody writing out your entire order verbatim. Like even if T was writing in shorthand, I'd be like, okay, she gets it enough to know to write chicken CHX. But she doesn't have to write out the word chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's just doing her own little version of whatever shorthand she needs to remember. So she's like, she gets it enough to know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So anyways, great experience. So on the way back, there was only one flight option to Columbus on the way back, and it had a stop. And I had been looking the day that I booked the flights at so many different airports. I sort of lost track in my mind of the different airport codes. And so the whole week, I'm under the assumption that we're flying from Tampa to Detroit and then Detroit to Columbus. And I've also seen that the total time going home is even longer than our time that we flew down. So I'm thinking, oh, we're going to be in Detroit for a while. We'll just catch a late dinner. And we probably have a 2 or 3 hour layover in Detroit. We'll just get dinner in Detroit before a really short flight home. And we're supposed to get home close to midnight. We have to get home because our daughter really wants to go to her Valentine's Day party at school today, the day we're recording, Monday. So don't think about it again. So that's what I've told my wife and daughter. We're going to go to the first airport. We'll get there a little early. We'll fly to Detroit. We have a longer amount of time in Detroit, and then yada, yada. So I'm realizing like the day before the day of we're leaving that I was thinking Detroit, we were going out of Detroit, which is, I think, DTW. We're going out of Dallas Fort Worth, which is DFW. And now we're on the flight, and we did get into Tampa, and we did get to fly over to, we're on our way to Dallas. And I'm not knowing how the protocol works for change of times and destination, what's on my app, because now we're taking a very long flight west and then another very long flight north. And this long flight west is delayed. And every time that it delays, that flight window between arrival and departure gets much smaller and smaller. And I'm expecting dinner. Now we've not eaten since lunch. And I'm expecting a really long amount of time at Detroit. And it's not happening. And I asked, so I finally, we're getting snacks on the flight from Tampa to Dallas. And I asked the server or the flight attendant, hey, I have a question. Once you're done with snacks, can you come back? I have a travel question for you. She's like, well, go ahead with your question. I said, I would need you to see my flight plans. She's like, oh, okay, I'll come back. She never comes back. Finally, we're getting to the point now where my question about does it show destination time being us going back an hour because we're going to Central Standard? I'm about to find out real time because the clock is going to tick over, if you know what I mean, like amidst the flight. Finally, somebody stops and I said, hey, I think this landing time is like local time, which means since the flight was delayed, I'm going to have like, I think less than 20 minutes to change terminals in Dallas Fort Worth to not miss. And he said, and he very thick accent. He's like, yeah, it is local time. Okay. I think that means I'm going to miss my flight and I've got to get home tonight. So we're arriving back in Columbus at almost midnight with an almost 5-year-old. And I said, is there any way we can at least maybe get out of the plane early to try to catch, like be one of the first people out? Nope. Just cuts me off. Nope. You're just going to have to, wait your turn. We're in the back of the plane. We're like row 34 or something. So it's like, I'm doing all of this in my head. Had the flight at least been on time, we wouldn't have had dinner, but we would have had time to like snacks from a shop, go to the bathroom, catch the flight. The flight's now like 35 minutes delayed.
And is that, by the way, is the time you're looking at for departure or boarding?
Departure, not boarding.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
So now I'm in the app, which don't like American Airlines. Their Wi-Fi we tried to get Delta the whole way. Their Wi-Fi only lets you do certain things. You don't just get to turn on Wi-Fi. And so, but they will kind of let you refresh their own app is about it if you just want free Wi-Fi. So now I'm literally looking at the map. I've realized the ticker on the flight has now ticked over what I thought was maybe if we're lucky, this isn't local time. This is Tampa time. Nope. That amount of time has passed. We know it's local time. I've got about 20 some minutes, not to cross the airport, to get off the plane and cross the airport. And now I'm realizing as I'm refreshing the app that they've moved it just slightly further in the terminal where the Columbus flight would be leaving from. So now I'm like memorizing the map because you can go into the app and it's like, here's how to walk and then there's a sky tram that we've got to take. And there's a whatever, because of course we're not in the same terminal we're not on a side-by-side terminal where if you get on the tram, it's the next stop. It's on the other side of the thing. So I tell Bree, when this plane lands, I'm going to stand up and get as far forward into the aisles as I can. And we've already talked about this, and I didn't want to be this person. Yeah. But now if my daughter's going to get to her Valentine's Day party, I don't have a choice.
This is all up to me. I have to be that guy.
It's like I'm dad and husband now. We've had a nice vacation. I'm not letting a delayed flight, screw this up for another day, and we're stuck in Dallas. So flight gets up, or the flight stops, lands. I stand up, grab as much luggage, all the luggage, by the way, grab all the luggage, stand up. The guy in front of me, sitting in front of me, I'm like, I'm really sorry. I've got a super quick turnaround. He's like, yeah, we all do. I'm like, if you really do, then I'll move back. And he's like, no, it's fine. Go ahead. So I get forward 6, 7, 8 seats, which feels like a lot at this point. Yeah. Thanks. Corey pulled it up. This is nightmare fuel now.
I just want to highlight the fact that the terminals are not in alphabetical order as you would think they would be. Yeah. So if you're in terminal C and you think, oh, I'm just going to B, which has to be right next to it, right? You have to take the Skylink all the way around. So anyway.
Yeah. So if you're not looking at YouTube, which you should be subscribed to our channel. Hey, Corey, what's the opposite furthest terminal from C?
That would be D.
Great. That's the one we've got to get to. So now I'm 6 or 7 seats ahead. I'm standing. The plane is exiting like normal. The guy to my left is instantly annoyed now, several seats up past the other guy who was annoyed. And he's like looking at me like, what the heck are you doing? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I literally have to get my wife and daughter home, and I've got like 20 minutes to get to my next flight. He's like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. He's like, because I was on a flight earlier and this lady did that. She just, because she wanted off the plane. I'm like, this is the absolute last person I want to be right now. But like, I really got to get home. He's like, no, I totally understand it.
I hate to pause you again. I'm just adding value to the weight of your story, right? But like, that was another question that came up in Pete and Sebastian. They're like, do you ever wait when the flight attendants say, hey, folks, we've got some passengers on board with really tight connections. If you could please just stay seated until we let those. They asked each other, do you ever wait? And they're like, oh, I never do that, because I could always just say that I too am one of those people, even though my layover might be 2 or 3 hours. They said I never wait. Like, screw those people. It's their own fault.
And so here I am. I now have a new appreciation for those people when they stand up and do what I didn't want to do, but I did anyways. So now this guy is I hope now he almost wants to help me, but like, there's nothing you can do. So finally, I get to the point where like, there's only a couple people in front of me. Bree and Finley shoot up, get up behind me, and we're like running. So now I've memorized enough of the airport map that I know I got to get out the terminal. Of course, everyone in front of me is like the lollygagger through the middle of the aisles with their luggage like meandering like it's a field and they've got a puppy dog.
Oh God, it's my pet peeve. It's my pet peeve.
So I now have all the luggage. I'm running as best as I can run as a non-runner. And I'm like, gotta go here, gotta go right, gotta get up the escalator. And it's like, I'm trying to like ask airport people, hey, you, where's the D, the thing to get me to the D on this thing? And I can't remember what they call the Skylarp or whatever they call it. And I'm like, the tram thing. What else? Where's the tram thing to D? And he like senses my urgency. He's like, it's there. Go to those doors. And so we run into that. And like, I'm dripping sweat because I'm only gotten as far as the Skylarp.
And you just left Florida.
And I just left Florida. Yeah. And I've got like a hoodie and luggage and bags and my hat on and some sweat. And so now we're on the tram. Now we can't, Skylarp, Skylink.
Skylink. It's Skylink.
I like Skylarp. It's Skylarp.
And you can't control anything now except you're like, I just can't screw up which door I go out. Because if I get off at the wrong place, we're toast. And this very, very sweet girl from Kansas, couldn't have been more than like 22, 23, kind of senses our urgency and is like chatting and being very like, with our daughter Finley, like, where are you guys? Like, where are you going? And so sweet. She's like, oh, were you in Florida? I was in Florida. That makes us besties. And she's being very sweet. So like Bree and I could talk because she just kind of picked up on like, okay, we got to go to the. So God bless you. I think her name was Sarah. So we finally get to the right gate, which is at this point the absolute opposite side of where the Skylarp has to go. And I get it. We go out the right direction. We're sprinting through the airport as much as I can sprint, right? And I hear over the overhead, last call for Columbus. And I'm thinking, oh, this in my head, this is the corner on the map that's like right around the corner. The only question I'm seeing that it says gates D1 through 4, and we're 3. So in my head, I'm like, okay, is 1 going to be first and then 2, 3, 4 where I've got to run? Or is it going to be 4, 3? Because that saves me another gate I've got to run by. And I hear it and it's last call and I'm like 20 feet from this corner. And I'm like, it's going to be around this corner though. And then I get around the corner and I remember that there was a very long hallway that I forgot about that was this long hallway. And they have the people movers. And I jump on the first people mover.
It's the ground LARP.
It's the ground LARP. It's that one. So I get on the ground LARP and I'm running on the ground LARP and I'm huffing and puffing. And look, we're all big guys. Imagine the thing where you're wheezing and running and your breathing, you now know is loud enough that it has a cacophony effect through the airport. And so it's that kind of thing. It's like, because I've got all the luggage and I'm like out ahead.
Are Bree and Finley way behind, just hoping you're going to stop them?
No, they're close enough. And they had to go to the
His
bathroom.
point is Dillon is who they had to keep up with.
They had to go to the bathroom at one point. So I'm like pacing.
Well, I thought you're just going to tell the gate agent my wife and daughter are right behind me.
Kind of the goal, but I was trying to keep them close. Well, they had to go to the bathroom at one point. So I'm like, don't eat. She's like, should we go now? I'm like, don't even think about it. Just run in and go. So I had like a 2-minute lap. I was like running laps like a rabid dog outside of the bathroom for like a minute and a half. Running back down, hit the long hallway. They've already called last call for Columbus. I get on the ground LARP and I'm running down the ground LARP. And then I'm doing like the Captain America thing with the people. I'm like, left, because I'm like trying to get around on the left. And then then there's a gap, and then there's another ground LARP, but that one's broken. So I have to dodge the reverse ground LARP that I don't want to run on because I'll exert more energy. And I have to run around that. And I finally make it around the corner, and it's gate 4. And I run past. And by the way, there was this dude, very funny, bad timing. This dude looks behind me and goes, where are you going? As I'm running up behind him, like Cincinnati or Columbus, because they must be the closest gates. I'm like, Columbus, because I can't breathe because I'm dying. He's like, man, I could hear you coming a mile. I'm like, like trying to fake laugh, like wrong time. Get around the corner. Gate 4, gate 3, run up to the gate, about pass out. I'm like, I'm here. She's like, gate's closed. Can't let you on. I can tell in her face. She has no remorse whatsoever. And I said, no, I gotta go home. Is there anything you can do? She's like, I'm sorry, gate's closed. And then Finley and Bree come around the corner. And I said, my wife and daughter are right there. And I pointed at him. And you saw this look where she's like, like, now this doesn't just affect some guy who was late. Now this affects a little child and a wife. And so she's like, hold on. And she disappears beyond the door to the tunnel to the plane. And we're just sitting there like, oh, God. And I'm out of breath. And I'm like, and I'm like wheezing. And I'm like, she's not coming back. She's just going to hide in that hallway till I disappear or something. And she sprints back down the tunnel. And she's like, they're willing to let you on. And I was like, I got my pass. She's like, just run. I didn't even scan in or anything. We ran down the tunnel to the plane, like wheezing and coughing and hacking because we've just sprinted across the whole airport and got on. And I was so grateful and ecstatic until I saw every face looking back at me the whole walk back to our seats. That was like, who the hell are you? And why are you keeping us from leaving? But we made it. And our seats were literally in the back. So we walk of shame the entire way to the back of the plane and made the freaking flight home with no dinner, no food, no snacks, because we were planning on a nice dinner in Detroit. The best thing that I can say other than making it home is that Finley got to go to her Valentine's Day party at school this morning. And she passed out about 5:45 around dinner time. For the day. And the very nice flight attendant gave us a huge bottle of water when we sat down and was like, here, if you guys are thirsty. We're like, I'm still wheezing and hacking.
Can I pee on this when I'm done?
Yeah, because you guys were about to be the reason that they had to reroute somewhere else because there was a medical emergency.
Yeah. Well, and now I'm of course, all of this is making me hack the first 20 minutes of the plane, and everyone's thinking, great, the COVID people were the ones that got on last or something.
Yeah.
So
we were going to be safe from the vid. Way they waited for these.
So I can't believe we freaking made it across the Dallas Fort Worth airport in like 20 minutes or whatever it was or less. But that's the airport story. So all the relaxation and mental relaxation that I built up during the week off just got burned up right away on that. But it was a great trip and a very fun time. We made our flight. We got lots of snacks on the plane on the way home, and we got our kid to the Valentine's Day party. So it was a good time.
Well, next time you're at DFW and have a little more time, you should stop by Papado at A25 because it's one of my favorite restaurants on planet Earth.
And I've eaten at a Papado, just not that one. I would have loved to have been able to stop. That would have been awesome. And I thought we were going to have time. I don't know how a flight from Tampa to Dallas is about the same length as a flight from Dallas to Columbus, but I'll leave that to the people who can explain like wind speed and all of that stuff and hemispheres of air. And I don't know how any of that works. So,
hey, here's a great segue. I just learned that one of the hosts of the other shows in one of the Odd Pods media shows is a flight attendant. So I have so many questions for them. And it's a great time to hear some words from one of our other friends in the Odd Pods media network.
I'm Richie, aka Midnight Agent Raw.
I'm Devin, aka Special Delivery Dev.
We're the Super Media Bros podcast. And each week, we give a comedically informative take on movies,
music,
television,
pro wrestling,
and much more. Check us out at supermediabrospodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Shades on.
We're off.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Everybody knows at the root of any good relationship, any relationship worth anything, is the only thing that matters between two people. And I'm talking about television. That's right. That's why you should listen to Married with Television, man, which is a podcast by my friends Shannon and Jamie, I call her cat ears, about movies and TV that they have loved for decades, man. You listen at marriedwithtv.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. They are proud members of the Odd Pods Media Network, man. Married with Television.
My brother, that was a great story in the first half of this episode. Your storytelling skills are superb. Well done.
Thing of beauty, Dillon.
Well, it wasn't a beautiful sight, I'm sure, to everyone witnessing. I kind of imagine, like, wrestling has always had the really skinny athletes and then the really big and fit ones. Yeah. And then the ones that are they're just kind of a blob like wall, they're not fit, they're not athletic, but they just have they're just a wall of force. I'm built more like that. I'm not built like the Athletic or like the Rey Mysterio or the Hulk Hogan. So I don't know what that looked like, me running through the airport. And I'm sure somebody somewhere filmed it and uploaded it somewhere to laugh at.
It's somewhere, yeah. I'm going to look at redhead running through Dallas Airport.
We made it. And the amount of coughing and hacking and wheezing that went along with it was a sight, I'm sure.
Well, you're the hero. You led your family through DFW, and that's no small feat. And you got your daughter through her Valentine's Day party, which was the goal. So happy Valentine's Day yesterday to all of you who are listening to this the day we release. Speaking of like holidays and big, events, did you guys catch any of the Stapleton Bowl or Super Bowl?
Oh,
I think that was my favorite part. Chris Stapleton singing the national anthem. Yeah. Understated, simple, just stellar vocals, really cool guitar part.
It was good, man. Yeah. Stapleton crushed it.
I actually got to watch a little bit on the limited American Airlines Wi-Fi that they had.
That's right.
I got to see bits and pieces in between my anxious planning. And it seemed like a decent game.
A wonderful game.
I don't know. I didn't get to hear the halftime show or Chris Stapleton. I'm going to go back and listen to those. But if you say it's worthwhile, but the game was decent.
Every Columbus area news station is sharing Chris Stapleton's national anthem on their feed. It's all over social media. You can go watch it. It's so good.
Yeah, it was just good. Like Corey said, it was clean, simple, understated, but still artsy. Like it was good. I would say for me, like, even though for the first time in a while, I felt like I didn't really have a horse in the race. I had to come up with really contrived reasons to root for Kansas City, so I rooted for. But despite that, like, it ended up being, I think, one of my favorite Super Bowl experiences because, like, I felt Chris Stapleton crushed it. It was a high scoring, really close down to the end game. I thought Rihanna was great. Like, I thought everything was on point for the most part. The commercials, I felt like the commercials were better than they have been in recent years. Like even that component. There's a guy in a budgie smuggler. That's always fun. I meant to
Sure
point
there
out the
was.
reason why I wanted to share that story with you is because like I had that moment. I had like I even told them like, gosh, I haven't been like, it was literally the first day in 2 weeks that I had talked. I was like, so I sat around for 2 weeks trying to figure out what I was going to say when I finally got my voice back, and that's the crap that came out.
That's
Sorry,
what
guys.
you came up with.
Yeah, but
Well, one day you texted us. I think it was the day we were supposed to record last week, or the day before. It doesn't matter. You texted at like 10 or 11 or something in the morning. You're like, hey, I just tried to talk for the first time and it ain't pretty. And all I could think was, you can make it till 10 or 11 in your house without talking.
yeah, I mean, when you're sick and you sleep in a little bit, and everybody's, I mean, at like 7:30 in the morning, you're the only one left in the house. There's no reason to talk.
That's awesome.
I did think it was a good game from the very little bit that we watched. Our sitch was our daughter had yet another Sweet 16 celebration thing, but this time with her friends. So we took her to an old school skating rink, like roller skates, old timey music, like total 80s vibe. In fact, her and her friends dressed in Stranger Things garb and 80s clothing to make it sort of throwback and fun. And so we missed a good chunk of the Super Bowl, which meant I had DVR'd the whole thing, which meant I fast forwarded through the game and stopped for commercials. And I usually find it annoying when people are like, I don't care, I just watch for the commercials in the halftime show. But for me, because I too didn't have a dog in the race or a horse in the fight, I was just like, what makes more sense, to root for the team that beat your team so that your team looks kind of better, or out of spite hope that the team that beat your team lost? So that's where I found myself with the whole thing. And I guess I sort of ended up with, I want them to win to look better, but I don't really like their quarterback. So
that was one of the things for me. Is just like, I love Patrick Mahomes. I feel like he's a hard guy to not like.
Yeah.
But there's, I don't know. I had, like I said, really contrived reasons to come up with rooting for Kansas City. Not one of them being that rooting for the team that beat the team that I wanted to make it. Like,
yeah,
I don't care about that so much. It's more like I want, like there's the Tom Brady and Peyton Manning era, and I want there to be a Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow era. I want those to be the two. And so it's like I'm rooting for that to happen.
Yeah. Commercials, I kind of disagree. It felt like just sort of so. I did like, and we commented on this, I think last year, it felt like a lot of commercials were geared toward millennials with like nods to pop culture from when we were kids. So there was like the Clueless reference, there was the Zoolander reference, there was the whole making fun of Sarah McLachlan's sad pet commercials. The Bush Light commercial was great. So there was like a bunch of millennial sort of like nods to things of old. I thought Rihanna did great. More people were worried about whether or not she was pregnant. And then one of my friends on Facebook was like, how do you all miss the visual metaphor? She's dressed as one of her unfertilized eggs and there's like 1,000 dancing sperm all around her. Because they were all in white. Like it's just a metaphor of announcing that she is in fact pregnant. So I thought that was comical. Shout out to Jeremy Ketterman for the joke.
It's funny. I'm gonna have to go back and watch some of the halftime show. I was kind of excited to see Rihanna was going to come back and do it. Regardless of sometimes celebrities' life choices can turn you off of their work. She's one of those. She has a little bit of a special place in my heart. I remember her performing at Ohio State, not on the Oval, but the South Oval. So it gives you a sense of size of the show. There was maybe a couple hundred people there when I was in school, and I was watching out my window, listening to her concert. And this was when Pone to Replay wasn't even really like a radio song yet. Unfaithful was not popular yet, but like you had maybe heard those before. And so like, I remember watching that concert from my dorm room with like a couple hundred people. And so it's this memory that I have going all the way back to like early college years. So I just, there's just a little part of me that always kind of roots for her to do well. And the whole humble beginnings in a Caribbean island or whatever thing.
Barbados.
So, yeah. So I always just kind of root for her to like I hope she makes good choices and whatever, but is successful. So I was glad to hear that she was coming. She was going to be doing the halftime show. I think the consensus seems to be she did a good job, I think, for most people. I also think it's more interesting. I'm not interested in the reasons why people weren't watching the NFL politically the last 5 or 6 years or whatever. I don't care to talk about that. But I do think it's interesting that the last couple Super Bowls, we've not had the same people over and over. And last year and this year especially, more people talking about being excited to watch the Super Bowl than I remember for a long time. And I think that has more to do with some of the political outrage is dying off a little bit. But I also think people are just excited to see different teams in the Super Bowl and not the same. Not a Manning, not Tom Brady, not Brett Favre, not whatever. And we might have talked about that last year, but I think this year was a continuation of that. That it was just nice to have some, even though Patrick Mahomes was in it again, he's a young name. Like he's not Eli Manning, And so it's just good. It's good to see some different teams make the Super Bowl. It's good to see some different star players make the Super Bowl. And so I am excited to go back and watch Stapleton and some of Rihanna and the highlights from the game. I saw a little bit, but I think that's been interesting. So I think going forward, if maybe we get the Bengals back next year and somebody else, that would be fun. I think that'll keep a lot more interest in the NFL.
A lot of people were saying in my algorithm anyway, that the Tubi commercial was their favorite because it made it appear as though someone had taken control of your screen, exited out of the Super Bowl, gone into the Tubi app, selected a show or movie to watch. And some people legitimately fell for it and thought
like
that something was. Yeah. So like shout out to their creative team for the, and then there was a funny Will Ferrell one where he jumps into a couple well-known franchises like zombie movies and things like that. So that was kind of fun. Any other thoughts? Any other things you guys are watching?
Oh man, have you guys seen Hello World by Nate Bargatze?
Love it.
So good.
So much.
Here's how I knew that this is such a, I'm going to just say special stand-up like by him. I took an audience while we were on vacation of mom, stepmom, uncle, aunt, and my wife is like some stand-up, only from a few comedians, and I put it in front of that whole audience. And now, to be fair, Brie and I had already watched it, so I knew she liked it. But to show it to an older generation that does not sit and watch stand-up, they all laugh the whole time. And except for our mother, God bless her, she missed the first joke. And then because she was asking me about the first joke, she missed the second joke. I said, Mom, for the love of, you're 0 for 2 in the first 2 jokes. Like, I can't tell you.
Oh, no, I've been wanting to introduce her to Nate, so I'm bummed.
I'm like, I can't repeat the jokes the whole show. We just got to rewind and start over. But there was so much good, wholesome humor in that is so approachable for literally anybody that's at least a teenager. I mean, it's not for kids, not in the sense that it's bad or there's language, but it just the content, especially family dynamics, first sibling, youngest sibling, some of that kind of stuff is better suited to a different audience than children, but so freaking good, so freaking funny. I hope I'm sure he's already popular enough, but I hope this is one of those specials that everyone keeps telling everybody about because it's easily accessible. And I hope he skyrockets from this one.
Yeah, I think this is for sure one of his best hours, if not his best hour. He's so polished. He looks so much healthier. He just, for all the reasons, I feel like he's really totally in his element with that special. And yes, super family friendly.
Yeah, I think he's matured into something. I mean, he was great before, but he also looked like he was 12.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, he's one of the better ones. One of the better ones for sure.
Speaking of wholesome, go ahead, Dillon.
I was just gonna say, God bless our friends over at Infectious Groove Podcast. We were they're part of Odd Pods. Russ over there was like, I remember we were talking once. He's like, "Hey, I know you guys like comics. I don't know if you've heard of this guy Nate Bargatze, or Bargatze. You should see if he would come on your show." And we were like, "Oh, Russ, trust us, we would love to have Nate Bargatze on the show." No way, dude's joining our show.
Nah, he's blowing up.
I feel like if we had been doing what we were doing now, as long as we had been doing it when we actually started, we could have maybe approached Sebastian and Nate Bargatze like 3 years, how long have we been doing this? 3 or 4 years ago, but with a couple hundred episodes under our belt at that point. Yeah. We could have maybe tried, but no, we missed. We missed that boat.
They're too big for us. 2 recommendations, one on the wholesome front, one on the not wholesome front. If you're into a really fascinating and fun and family friendly, just like feel good documentary, the Pez Outlaw on Netflix is wonderful. There's this weird old guy who is struggling with anxiety, depression, and OCD. And so to cope, he collects cereal boxes. And like he has a basement full of them. He's flattened all of them. He's got a naming convention and a whole system for labeling them. And because he's collecting them, he gets the box tops. And this was in the days when the box tops you could cash in for little trinkets and prizes and things like that. He claims to be the reason that they limited the redemption to 1 per household, because he sort of worked the system to get all of the box tops and the labels and the proof of purchases to get just constant shipments of crappy plastic toys sent to his house. And he would take those toys, take them to toy conventions, and then turn around and sell them for a profit to toy collectors who hadn't done all that work. At which point he learns about the craze of collecting Pez dispensers. And he says that he finds this one woman who says, if you want to get good Pez, you have to go to like this random place in like Eastern Europe. And he starts going over there buying duff because he's this affable guy that just everybody who meets him loves him. He builds a relationship with the factory in Hungary or Ukraine or something and starts illegally importing Pez. Now, here's the fascinating thing. There's 2 versions of Pez. There's Pez headquartered in Hungary, and they're like Pez International. They have nothing to do with Pez America. Everything that happens with Pez in the States goes through Pez America. So he was essentially importing stuff that you can't get here by bringing it in. And because Pez had not registered their product with the Department of Homeland Security, he fell in this weird sort of thing that allowed him to be the unofficial importer of stuff. So he'd go buy them at like 35 cents a piece and turn around and sell them for hundreds of dollars a piece, because he was getting like prototype Pez that like wasn't even released in Europe or in America, and selling them for just making tons, sends his daughter to college, has his son working for him, buys a horse farm for his wife. Like, so now he becomes the enemy of get this is not a joke, the president of Pez USA, like wants to shut this guy down.
Oh man.
And he'll go into like boardroom meetings, and all he'll talk about is this one guy. He's obsessed. He has to shut it. It's a great documentary. You have to watch it.
Oh my.
I'm fascinated. And also, what is it with companies? Why do companies want to shut down things that nourish their brand and don't technically really truly compete with them directly? Yeah, like, look, I realize this is Pez made in Europe, but this is for like the aftermarket collector. This isn't, what is Pez really? Pez is a box of candy that shows up at Dollar General or Walmart that somebody buys on the checkout at the way out. That's not the same thing as the aftermarket collector that they're going to toy conventions, and that's not the same thing. Like,
Yeah, they even bring that up in the documentary. They're like, if he were just doing this with like a handful of really rare ones, that'd be one thing. But he was doing it in the thousands and thousands and thousands, and it was undercutting their market in the States, they claimed. So the whole collector secondary market, they despised in America. And it was Austria, by the way, not Hungary.
Interesting.
It's so good. It's worth a watch. And then on the non-wholesome front, and totally unrelated, Kendall, you got me turned on to Hardy. I just started listening to Hardy's newest album. It's a double album. The first is like this more wholesome country like half, and then he gets into metal, heavy metal, and some rap, and it's dark and explicit in the second half. And it's like this beautiful juxtaposition. And he's got one called Radio Song, which is not a radio song. And man, he makes me want to embrace every small piece of me that grew up, I'll just say, redneck adjacent. Like, I didn't grow up as redneck as the subjects of his songs did, but I grew up close enough to that lifestyle and participated in enough of that even though only about 10 or 15% of it applies to me, he's got an anthem in the second part of this album called The Redneck Song, and it makes me want to have lived 100% that lifestyle.
Yeah. He's an excellent writer.
So good, man. And he's going to be appearing at the Allen County Fairgrounds, which is where Dillon and I spent a good chunk of our summers growing up, and tickets sold out in the first 15 or 20 minutes.
Have you heard he has like a good handful of those like proud to be a redneck type of songs, and people out there who like don't like and stereotype country music are like, well, isn't that what all country music is? And there's a lot of that out there, but like he's just more creative about saying it. Like, he's a good writer.
He's a great writer, and I think he's like, in a way, he's kind of, while they're anthems that make people proud of that lifestyle, he's also kind of making fun of it. Like, yeah, at the same time, he brings up Mountain Dew, red dirt roads, and posting pictures of dead bucks on his Instagram in more than one song.
Right. Yeah. Have you heard Rednecker Than You?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a great one. Anyway, I'm digging Hardy. I blare Redneck Song in my car over and over, and my daughters roll their eyes.
What kind of car? What kind of car?
Honda Civic. Yep, not a truck. Not a truck with nuts hanging from the tailgate. From the hitch, I mean, trailer hitch.
I love Hardy.
It's great.
So did I tell you guys, was it on here that I mentioned his cameo that he had on I want to say it was Friday Night SmackDown, but it might have been on Raw.
Yeah, you said something, or was it WrestleMania? Somebody on social media.
Well, he had a performance at WrestleMania, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah, you texted us. Tell me about it.
There wasn't much to say other than at one point, like I'm going to say it was SmackDown because that's what I think it was. Or no, actually, now I think it was Raw. It doesn't matter. They're in Nashville, and as you can kind of like see the first couple rows of people that are ringside, there was one shot where I'm like, that looked like Hardy. And so I'm trying to figure out if like I'm actually seeing Hardy like in the front couple rows at a WWE event until eventually like he had a planned cameo where it was a classic, like the heel was about to pin a guy and Hardy comes running, jumping under the ring and then pushes him off. Has a moment of the crowd cheering for Hardy. And then the big guy like gets up and like stares at him and then he runs away. So that was the beginning and end of the Hardy cameo on WWE, but it was so cool to watch.
That does not at all surprise me that he is connected to that world.
He's had a couple of performances, like at WrestleMania was one. He had another one like last year or something.
Yeah, somebody said the Royal Rumble performance was a little oof. I don't know.
It was kind of it was one of those where like I'm watching it thinking his other one, if you can find his other one, he did Rednecker at another WWE event, and that he slayed it with that one. The Royal Rumble one made me feel like it was the wrong song for that kind of venue. Like, for the most part, for me, when I've gone to concerts, quote unquote concerts, they haven't been arena concerts. They've been small dive club situations. I think it might have been Radio Song. It's the Royal Rumble one. In any case, like, it was a lot of screaming, and like that plays very well into the dive, like intimate relationship with the performer, kind of close club feel. And I feel like that doesn't play out as well as the arena feel, because it doesn't sound pretty, doesn't sound polished.
Yeah.
And
a lot of times when they're coming out for just one song and it's in an arena like that, two things can happen. The performer can't hear themselves in the speakers, so they can go off key really easily. If it's a whole concert, you can fix it by halfway through the first song or the second song.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses for them, but I'm just making excuses for them. Sometimes you can't hear yourself in the monitor. Second thing is the echo. You start hearing the echo and not your actual live voice coming out, and so it can get off. I haven't watched it yet. But yeah, between the yelling and it being one song and having to get it right the first time out, I mean,
I don't think it was that bad. It wasn't bad enough to, like, it wouldn't be that bad for me to be turned off.
Yeah.
If I didn't already know him. But the fact is, I already know him. I already know his writing. I already know I've seen other performances, and enough to know that, like, that's just a bad first experience.
Yeah. It's just sort of an outlier.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I have a bunch of other things to talk about, but they don't really relate at all to anything that we've mentioned so far. And we're already at an hour. So
we are. I do want to mention, thanks to you two, especially you, Dillon. I tried for, I think, the third time to start Downton Abbey, and it's stuck this time. So the past couple of weeks, I've been going through Downton Abbey, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
It's such a sweet show that has occasional heavy moment, but not so much that it makes it hard to turn it back on. You're going to get relief from heavy drama pretty quickly.
They tend to skip some moments in time, I think, very conveniently for that. It's like, this person dies. Now we can stay here for a while, or we can just say, hey, a year later.
Right.
And they typically take the year later approach.
Yeah. And we have, because I don't know where all the movies are now, we have both of the movies that come after the end of the series. So if you want to borrow those, you can watch them, because they're both definitely worth watching if you like the show. And hopefully in the next 2 to 3 episodes, I will have finally watched Black Panther 2 and Quantumania. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania will hit theaters, and hopefully I will have seen that. I'm very excited. Kevin Feige is saying that this is Quantumania is the biggest film as far as far-reaching consequences that we've seen since Endgame.
You mean there are big implications?
This is the movie with the most big implications since Endgame.
Kevin's stealing my line.
So that doesn't mean that a lot will be revealed, but I think at least a lot will be teased in Quantumania, which I'm excited about.
Implied, yes.
Yep. All right. Well, it's been fun catching up. Dillon, glad you're back safe and sound and that you've caught your breath. Kendall, I'm glad that you can speak. It's good spending time with each of you. Weigh in on this week's episode if you want by checking the little details in the episode description wherever you're listening to or watching this. We have a LinkTree link that links to all of the ways that you can get a hold of us. Text us, send a voicemail, email, whatever you want to do, as well as our Facebook group, Facebook page, all that stuff. You can even send us a tip if you like the content that you get week in and week out, except for the one time in 3 years. Send us a tip, throw a few bucks in there. Let us know you appreciate what we're doing and providing all this great free content. Dillon, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke about the tip going to the new Lego Lord of the Rings Rivendell set, but Seriously, though, I'll have to buy that myself. All the money that we get in tips just goes right back into the show.
Yeah,
That's
sounds
right.
good. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate and love all of you. Check us out where we do most of our interaction on our Facebook group, From the Middle for the Middlers. There's a lot of fun activity going on over there if you want to get some behind the scenes stuff. And that's kind of our version of a paywall Patreon page. We just put some extra stuff up there for those closest to the show. So we love catching up. We'll see you all next week. Bye.